a second to catch up. Alrighty. I think we got this. Yeah, on that one. Let's see if I can adjust that.
I like that I can't. I don't know what's going on for there. Hey, hey.
Alrighty. Oh, that's a little better.
That's better? Okay.
There we go.
Cool.
Alrighty. It looks like people are starting to populate in.
Tell us who you with, where you from, who you with. No.
No, don't do that. Just tell us who you are and where you're from as we wait for more people to join us. But hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
How is everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing well. Sorry, I'm picking my eye there. I got a little something in there. But yeah, how's everybody been? It's been a month already, and we are back with another edition of Health Talk with the Mott. A little show where we talk about a little bit of this and a little bit of that, especially when it comes to health and wellness with the body and everything that it encompasses. So
physical, emotional, spiritual, all of the things.
Yeah. So let me set this up here because I realized I was trying to record with no mic. All right. So while I'm doing this, why don't you tell them what we're going to be talking about tonight?
So tonight, I'm actually excited about this subject because this is something, I feel like I say this a lot, but this is something like that's dear to my heart. Ever since I was a little girl, like I was one of those weird little kids. Like you remember when they did the like reduce, reuse, recycle like campaigns and all those things. Like I was like the one going home to my parents like, we have to recycle things and we need to have a planet for my kids, you know, or whatnot. So we're going to be talking about eco-friendly, sustainability, green. We use a lot of those terms, but what exactly does that mean? And do we look at companies as far as do they follow these type of things, right? Are they concerned with our earth and what's going to be here or not be here for generations to come?
Okay. So that sounds like a good topic. We're going to share a little bit of tidbits that we have with you guys. And feel free to drop any comments down below. We'll try to go back and answer them afterwards. So, okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. With that term, eco-friendly.
Are you set there?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at that later. But with the term eco-friendly, what's the other one you use? Going green, sustainability. What exactly does that mean?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we want to start with the terms?
Yeah, let's start with what that means for those who are unfamiliar.
Yeah, because here's the thing. The reality is when we look at the marketing systems, right, they try to throw around all these terms essentially to get you to buy things, right? They want to, because it's like, oh, people are more aware of what's in products. So let's go green, natural, sustainable. So they throw around these terms, but what exactly do these terms mean? And is the company really that concerned with our earth? And do they use sustainability practices? So first and foremost, the term green. So when someone says I'm going green or they use the term green, simply that means it's applied to almost everything related to benefiting the environment. There you go. If it has to do with the earth, then it's green, right? Which doesn't tell you very much, right? That doesn't really say very much. Now, eco-friendly. So now when it uses the term eco-friendly, that essentially is something doesn't harm the planet, okay? So it might not harm the planet, but is it really sustainable? Is it really long-term going to be beneficial? So that is what that term eco-friendly means. Another term then is sustainability. So this one is a way more powerful one when we think about it, because sustainability, so that one, most precisely defined term, its wide scope of issues and activities that according to the United Nations do not compromise the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Okay, so it's going to go a step further, and what it's going to say is not only does this not hurt the planet now, but how is it going to affect the planet in the future? So many people know us, like, so we read our Bibles, and when you think in biblical times, right, when they had harvests and when they had crops and things like that, there was laws that the land had to be at rest at periods of times, right? Because over time, that's going to be sustainable to keep crops and new things flourishing, right? So a lot of times the problem is we want strawberries all year round when they're not supposed to be.
We love strawberries.
All year round, right? So what do people do? They have crops that is not sustainable, but it's going to keep producing your strawberries, so you're happy you get strawberries, right? But that's not what's going to be best for the earth. That's not what's going to, in the long run, continue to be sustainable. And not to mention, your strawberries are probably not strawberries. So to keep on with that definition, so the item or action is generating environmental, social, and economic benefits. So while not using up too many resources or causing pollution. So that's a pretty heavy load under sustainability, okay? So why this is super, super important and super passionate to me is, here's the reality, right? If previous generations were a little more concerned with certain things for us, then we would have some of the things we don't have, right? Mm-hmm. So it is important for us when we think about our babies, to have nutrient foods. Here's the reality, right? So 20 years ago, one orange, the vitamin and mineral benefits that you would get in. Today, you need to eat 5 oranges to get the same nutrient value.
Orange is not orange juice.
Right. The actual fruit.
Yeah, we've talked about that before,
right?
But go ahead.
So you're not if you need the same amount of vitamin A and vitamin C and all the beautiful, beautiful vitamins as your grandparents 20 years ago, you need to eat 5 of them. Why? Because we have not sustained the amount of minerals and vitamins in our soil. So the reality is we have to think about the next generations.
Yeah, and I just want to go back just a little bit because sometimes we're thinking like on a global scale, on a worldwide scale, that everybody needs to be on the same page in doing this so that we can have sustainable, pretty much goods to use in the future and for, like Dana mentioned, for our kids and their kids and their kids. But a lot of that just starts with us, right? And some of the small practices that we make or small changes that we make to make sure that not only are we doing things that, as Dana mentioned, are going to benefit the earth, but we also don't want to harm it. We also don't want to use up all of our resources either while we're still alive, mm-hmm. right? So a lot of it comes down to some of the practices that we make within our household. I want to go into detail about just a couple of them, if that's okay. So I know one of the huge things that we're seeing now, especially when it comes to, because this is always interesting to me because of the field that I work in, but energy consumption and efficiency. We sometimes don't realize how much it takes from the earth for us to be able to use the electricity and the fuels that we use, whether it's what we put in our car or, as far as keeping lights on at the house. Right now it's hot in summertime here in Michigan, which means it's muggy. ACs are probably running 24/7. And all of that has a cost, mm-hmm. right? It's not something that I think sometimes we think that as long as it's not affecting me within the immediate future, that it doesn't have ramifications down the road. But all of that comes at a cost. And then the other half of that is it's not just locally. Mm-hmm. It can be the simple fact that in different countries, maybe they're not as eco-friendly or quote-unquote going green or being smarter about how they're using their resources. And that still affects us where we live here today. So making small changes, whether it be in how much energy and consumption that you're using, or energy consumption that you have. Making those small changes can help a lot. Some of the recommendations that I think of immediately is if you have old fluorescent bulbs within your house, and that's the ones that they usually get really hot when they're on. They're usually a little bit warmer in color, maybe yellow tinted, which is why your selfies don't turn out the way that you want them to.
Yeah. Why would you want that lighting? It's terrible.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a shift years ago to I forget the name of the other ones, but if you can't, switch your bulbs to LEDs. They use a lot less energy, and they're a lot brighter, and overall leaves less of a carbon footprint. So if you have old bulbs, or even if your bulbs haven't gone out, please switch them to LEDs. I'm telling you, please switch them to LEDs. Get the fluorescent lights out of your home, and the CFL bulbs. Those were the ones that kind of look like a spiral, and everyone was switching over to them years ago because they were supposed to be quote unquote more energy efficient. They're actually going away. They're eventually going to ban. They have outlawed them, and you have like only, I think, like another year or so to get them out of your house. So they no longer produce them. So get them out of there anyway. Running water, things like that. Think about that long shower that you want to take all the time. Maybe cut back just a little bit. Maybe turn the faucet off. Like stuff that we heard like when we were kids. Turn the faucet off when you're brushing your teeth. Don't just allow the water to run. Even, I know this is a huge thing nowadays, but everyone seems to drink bottled water. And sometimes we don't think about even if we recycle, it still leaves a footprint, right? There's still some, results as of using it. And I'm not saying don't drink it, period, but
not to mention drinking water out of plastic bottles, you're getting, especially depending on the type of plastic that it is, you're getting some of those chemicals from the plastic into your water. So right, you're drinking more water trying to be more healthy, but the reality is not only is that leaving more on our poor little planet, but it also is toxic to your body.
Well, and then here's the other thing you have to think about is worldwide, if everybody is using plastic bottles, but only a small portion are recycling them and using them for other purposes, then what happens to all that garbage? Mm-hmm. At some point, it is either dropped off at the dump where hopefully it decomposes, so that it can be used properly. But the other half is a lot of that ends up in the oceans and the water and are carried into different areas just by the current, mm-hmm. right?
Yep.
So just some things to think about, making those small changes. I know we personally either have a filter or boil your water, get a reusable water bottle. Stainless steel.
Or glass.
You can look anywhere, and actually they have the ones that actually keep your water or your beverage hot or cold. So I found it to be more beneficial than carrying around a plastic water bottle where your water heats up like that, right? So just those small changes will have a big impact, because remember, the reason that we're doing this is we want to make sure that we have things to use while we're around, but we also want our kids and their kids and their kids and their kids to still have access to resources that may be more abundant right now. Mm-hmm. All right. Go ahead. I think I almost got like my podcasting material back up, but I'm going to fool with that for a second. I'm going to let you talk.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is, here's the reality, right? We also want to support companies that support our planet. So this is super, super powerful, because depending on how we spend our dollars, demands what the industry is going to do. So for many know, for us, we trust and we use Young Living products, right? And one of the things that attracted me to the company is their 5x5 pledge, as well as their sustainability, right? So they are not only concerned about, hey, let's have some oils, but they're also concerned with how do we treat this planet, right? So here's the reality. Most companies out there, ask them where their farms are. Ask them. Ask them where they get their oils from. Where do you get your products from?
Hey, cuz, where you get your oils?
The reality is most of the companies are just bottlers. They're not farmers. They don't understand the earth. They don't understand the land, right? Same with just different companies in general. When you think about, where do you get your toothpaste? Where do you get your deodorant? Where do you get your... How do they view sustainability? How do they view the ecosystem? How do they view the earth, right? One of the biggest industries that are hurting our planet really is the fashion industry. Unfortunately, a lot of their practices to mass produce clothing and things like that, especially high-end ones, is not sustainable for our earth or our planet. So we want to look at those type of things. Look at the companies. What are their beliefs on the type of mark that they're looking to leave on this planet? So one thing that, if you're familiar with Young Living's 5x5 pledge, just Google it, Young Living 5x5 pledge. That is a huge thing that they are pledging to take care of the earth, right? So one of the pledges is they're looking to have 5 times more people empowered by the D. Gary Young Foundation. How many people could be impacted with certain things that they're lacking in different countries and things like that. Another one of their promises, 5 years to zero waste. That's pretty huge for a large company to say, we are moving towards zero waste, right? So we ship to millions of people, but we want to make sure our packaging is sustainable. Our products are sustainable. How we ship it to you is sustainable, right? We want to minimize. Now, is it possible to eliminate all waste? No, right? But when you minimize those things, again, we're looking at what type of things are we leaving for generation after generation. Another one of their big things that they're moving towards is 5 or more corporate owned or partner farms developed each year. So what does that mean? So Young Living actually owns their own farms, right? That's important. So you know what's being harvested, when it's being harvested, how the earth is taken care of, right? So if you're a Young Living distributor, you already know the pain in our hearts when things go out of stock, right? That happens far too many times. I have yet to find one other company that their products go out of stock. If your company does not go out of stock, they're probably not getting it from nature, because it's not possible to have all of these ingredients all of the time, just like your strawberries are not good all year round. Sorry. Right?
Yeah, you can get strawberries, but they're not the same. What's the watermelon's the other thing. Like, sometimes you see watermelon in the fall, and I feel like that's wrong.
It's
like,
all wrong.
Like,
all bad.
It does not taste the same. And the quality is just not the same.
Right,
period.
and you're not
like,
living on a Caribbean island. You're not supposed to be eating that food anyways, right?
Yeah. So same thing applies.
Right.
Same thing applies.
So what Young Living does with their farms are, again, sustainability, right? You're not going to get a product if we can't sustain this land, right? There's certain oils, because many times I hear people, oh, Young Living's so pricey. I'm like, really? Do you know what they do to get those oils? I don't think it's that pricey. Like, because there's some oils where trees have to be dead. Like, they only source it from dead trees after it's been sitting for 30, 50 years or something crazy like that, right? Or they cold press, citrus oils, right? Again, it's using all of the parts of the fruit, the flower, the herb, or whatever it might be. So really, it's using the resources instead of wasting them. They're partner farms. So many of Young Living's partner farms, the only reason that they're partner farms is because what Young Living did is these farms, a lot of them were losing their crops. Things were going extinct, right? So I love this one in the Hawaii Sandalwood Cooperative Farm. So Young Living and the Royal Hawaiian Sandalwood Plantation, Hawaii have signed a long-term exclusive agreement with licenses and permits from the state to support long-term sustainability, right?
Long-term.
They literally signed a contract that said, the only way we're working with y'all and the only way we're partnering, the only way we're going to fix the problem that's going on is if sustainability is at the core of what we're doing. Young Living now has a secure source of this treasured essential oil that has become threatened by overharvesting. So when we don't think about the earth, we don't think about the plant, things get over harvest. One, you lose out on the nutrient values, you lose out on the benefits of these beautiful plants and oils, and you're not going to have any more, right? So a little while back, there was a bit of an issue with our peace and calming and our valor, right? Because there was one ingredient that actually was extinct or going extinct, right? Sorry. And so what Young Living did is they went to the authorities. They said, hey, we didn't realize this was, endangered. And so they turned themselves into the authorities and said, hey, this is what's been going on. We're not going to be harvesting anymore. We're not going to do anything with it anymore. Boom. That went out of stock. We didn't have valor. We didn't have peace and calming, right? Because it was hurting the planet, right? It wasn't sustainable anymore. So again, we have to think about what is the company's belief system and what type of ethics do they have. So Gary is committed to the conservation and reforestation of sandalwood trees and is excited to have a partner who offers us this opportunity to help. They planned and implemented this project, and Young Living is still working with that, right? So there's other places as well. The Highland Flats Tree Farm in Idaho. They all partner together, again, with the whole notion of sustainability. So what is this planet going to have and offer us for later years? So think about that when you're purchasing. Think about that when you think about the companies that you're going to the store and getting them off of the shelves, right? How do they view the planet? How do they view products?
And I'll just add one last thing to that before we close out, because I feel like this is more of a reflection of the times that we live in, but also we have to exercise restraint. I know that is a curse word for some people, but we live in a time that is very much about instant gratification. I need this now, which is why companies have tried to step up, quote unquote, production to match the needs of the people. But if we can exercise some restraint and some self-control, then maybe we start taking a bite out of that, taking a chunk out of that, where maybe there's not as much production that needs to be done. Because even think about the products that we buy on the regular that come from manufactured factories. I mean, they still emit toxins into the air as well, and that's not good for our environment. So I add to that, when you're looking at certain companies that you're doing business with, ask yourself, do I really need this right now? Because if not, and a few people who are exercising a little bit of restraint can make a huge difference. So I will say that in addition. And yeah, the other thing I was going to say that was kind of funny is, are you telling me that Young Living is like the Dayton of companies? Like, our son tells on himself like all the time. So as she's telling that story, I'm like,
they really were.
They really went to the authorities and were like, yeah, we did something bad. We didn't know.
Yep, they did.
But yeah, our son's like that, so I thought that was kind of funny.
Because our son his ethics are good.
I mean, but that's the thing too. Like, you want to make sure that you're dealing with companies that are ethical. There are a lot of companies out there who are not ethical. And I mean, even outside of oils, just in general, like, their practices are not ethical. So not only do we want to be a steward of the planet, but we also want to be an informed consumer, right? Research a lot of the companies that you decide to purchase from. Where are they getting their stuff from? At what cost?
And let me tell you this. Here's the reality, right? If they're willing to be unethical when it comes to how they get their products and things, they're willing to be unethical with you too. Right? They're gonna lie to you about what's in the ingredients. They're gonna try to get over and make as much money as possible. The reality is, it doesn't change. It isn't like all of a sudden, oh, I'm never gonna be honest, because, you know what I mean? Like,
Anthony joined my company. Now it's time to be honest.
Right.
All those practices we did in the past.
So you gotta think about these things. So where do we get our supplements from? Where do we get our things? Sometimes we think, oh, well, it's just cheaper to go to Walmart, Target, here, there, and get these things because the price tag looks cheaper. It's not cheaper in the long run, because if it's affecting your health, if it's affecting our planet, in the long run, it's not going to be cheaper.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'm looking at comments here. Tashina says she's honest to a fault as well. It must be something within you Stokes or Gosses.
I was smelling harmony. We need to be in harmony with our planets. We need to be in harmony with nature.
Did you just go tree hugger on everyone?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
I've always been a tree hugger.
Yeah, I know. That's why. That's why it's funny.
Like, I literally was that child where, like, someone would litter and I'm like, oh, you threw that outside. Go pick
Mister,
it up.
did you not know that you threw that? Yeah, that's you. Okay. Well, I looked through the comments. I think everything was covered. Most people are in agreement with what has been said.
Save the planet. Save our Earth.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Before we sign off, I just want to say thank you for everybody who has been supporting us. We are leaving for Salt Lake City next week, so we will be gone. We look forward to sharing some of our trip with you guys in the future, so be on the lookout for that. And if you like this video, please share, subscribe to our YouTube at DNA Wellness for more content.
Like, rate, comment,
and find us wherever podcasts are. I don't know, I was going to say podcast or so. Find us wherever podcasts are. Podcasts
Stitcher,
are Spotify,
Apple,
yeah,
Castbox, Google,
and yeah. So thanks a lot.
And tomorrow's International Oil Day, so we're gonna have a special going. Bye.
All right. Good night, everyone.